Yeah, welcome to the channel. This is Naz, and today I have a list of my favorite reads, what I've read this year, last year, 2022. So the best stories that I've read. There's 12 of them. I'm just calling it top 10 here, but so there's 12 stories, some light novels, some regular stories, some manga and fantasy stuff. But there's a few honorable mentions that I want to throw in here before I get into the list because for some reasons they're not. I mean, they're not bad reads. It's just that for me, I don't want to include it in this list. So The Return of the Blossoming Blade is a webtoon series that I've read last year. It's great, and among the vast majority of webtoons that I've read, I think that one has the best conclusion. I think the first season needs about 72 episodes at the moment, or chapters, and The Return of the Blossoming, among the reincarnations and progressions and all these webtoon genre, is one of the best. I think it has a good conclusion, and the art is just phenomenal. So just because I didn't pay it enough attention, and I didn't think I did it justice. I kind of read it too fast, that I want to revisit and give it justice later on on this channel. Another one that I want to mention is Illicit. Illicit 2, I actually am just happy about it, and honestly, it is a crime that I'm not placing it in my first, top 10. But Illicit also, I'm including it here as an honorable mention. Another honorable mention I'm including is going to be Dan Da Dan here. I read this one, and it's just so impactful, but it's only one volume, and for me to say this is one of the best stories I read is kind of unjust or insincere for a sec there. And then this one's too, I read about from volume 5 to about this part here last year, and I enjoyed it, and because I think it's redundant in its recommendations. Everybody knows about it, everybody recommends it. I just kind of opted it out of the list. I didn't feel, even though there is another series that people rave about for some reason. As far as manga is concerned, everybody knows about it. This one too is One Punch Man. I kind of read up to about volume 22, and the quality and the art is just so great that it would be like I said, a crime for me not to say something. At least mention it here, because it is one of the stories that I read last year. So let's move on. You know what I mean? So please leave a like and comment down below and let me know what you guys been reading. Like, mention a few of your favorite series that you read last year. So before we get into the actual list, so Mushoku Tensei, I don't have the volume that I actually liked. So volume 9 last year. So I read from here up to about 7 and 8 and 9 last year. But I think 9, because the story after this kind of goes in like a slump, and it takes a minute to get into, and it's now my favorite part of the story. But volume 9 just tied all those newts and kind of got me over that hump. And for that reason, I just kind of have that special attachment. But even the writing and the storytelling and the progression, it took its time. So I think that's why I want to include it in here. So number 12 here, least favorite. And then number 11 here is going to be Dead Mount, Death Play. Volume 3 here is an isekai story also again, but it does something different. It's reverse. So our protagonist is kind of like the demon lord or the villain in that other world. He comes to this world, and just, the less I say the better, because I think the novelty, and it tries to change some of the expectations that you have about isekai, and I think that's kind of like the strongest suit that this has. So that's that. And then just continuing this list, we have Berserk. What is this? Not Berserk. Hellsing, Volume 2. But the only reason why this wouldn't be higher is because some part of it, I think, went over my head. I think I was reading it, I wasn't paying enough attention. So right now, with that alone is the reason why it's kind of like right now at the high tail end of the list. So Hellsing was one of my favorite. The art and the story in it it's gruesome. So there's something about it that I like. The blasphemy. I could pick any volume actually from what I've read last year of Ascendance of Bookworm, but I talked about it, and there's a video that I made about it. Just go check it out. That's why you should read this. But this volume concludes part 3. So this is volume 5, and it is the thing that we've been looking forward to. I mean, mine has been struggling with this sickness, the devouring, pretty much for, I don't know how many volumes in we are, maybe 11, 12, 13 volumes since then. And it's partially, there's something that happens in here. And then the messed up thing is a great portion of the story actually is just bonuses that has to deal with other characters. And so the abrupt ending, I kind of was I don't know what the plans are. So about part 4 should probably satisfy me, but I'm happy that a lot of the loose ends were tied and we're over that part of the hump. The initial The it's kind of like the story begins now for real, you know. But so among the many mangas that came out last year, you know, Kaiju number 8 I think is my favorite. I reread it at least twice this year, and uh, I just can't wait for the band. I'm actually holding myself back. So I enjoyed it. It's the pace. It's just quick. The turnover, the pace in the story, all the aspects of it hit the right. Like, you know what I mean? It's an all rounder. Great recommendations. Kaiju number 8. I only have it's up to about 4 volumes at the moment. So it's you know. Okay, last year I ended reading up this and I finished it. So Chainsaw Man Volume 11. The anime is going strong at the moment, or I don't know if it's going strong. I only watched a couple episodes, so I can't really judge. But I actually want to go back and reread this. And now that I think about it, it was a strong, like 10 and 11 were like my strongest favorite volumes. So this concludes that story. And yeah, go check it out, you know. Okay, and this one I always rave about it, and I'm not even gonna say what volume. It's just there are 2 volumes, Wandering Island, and I don't know if I read it the year before, but it's still I gotta say it's I'm gonna put it in there, okay? Because I just something about it. There's this mystery in the art, the amount of time that the author put in. You could tell, you will love it. Okay, so now we're gonna get into the 5, so top 5 at this moment, and honestly, I like all of them. I'm not gonna sit and be like pretend and be like, oh, you know what I mean, a snob and be like, you know, this is better. But it is what it is. I mean, I love them. At any given day, this can change. So let's just take that with a grain of salt. But so I read volume 5 and 6, and I'm just kind of keeping them as a one entry here. So 5 and 6, kind of this story part, this arc, with the introduction of Climb here. So there are different factions. There is the princess's faction. There is something Rose, I think Blue Rose, and then there is the Nazarick characters that also got divided into different like are different places. You got Sebas's faction. You got Damarage. You got you know what I mean Ainzel going showing up later, and then Manga, and then this part just all in all. The writer actually said he rewrote a great deal from the web, you know, because this was a web novel for volume 5 and 6. So there's a great deal of new information in here, but he just flushes it out, and I think the story beat was perfection. And I just enjoyed myself. There wasn't a moment where it was a lull or it was just mediocre of any. It was just from beginning to end, the pacing, the story, all the elements. It is a mission, and this is one of the strongest. This part is my favorite at the moment of all. You know, so 5 and 6. I think this one is maybe equivalent to about the last portion of season 2. This covers the last portion of season 2, if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong down below, please. And then now let's get into what really. This pretty much was a gut. It's like slapped me. You know, it was very surprising. It wasn't something that I was thinking I was gonna read. So I read the whole thing online, came out, and this pretty much like yeah, I stopped whatever I was doing, like pause. My whole life was put on pause because this came into my life. That's how. I'm not saying the story is the best story ever. It's just the execution, really. You know, I mean, there's a lot of other isekai stories in here, but this, the way all things come together, I'm happy. I'm happy that I read this. I actually want to erase my memory so I can reread it. That's how good it is. Okay, so top 3 here. The Breaker is something that I'm still sometimes I'm looking at it, and every time I look at this, I smile. I'm happy. I'm happy, and it's the martial art. Again, it's not because this is like one of the best stories in the world, or the story, whatever the writer is doing. He's not breaking the medium, okay? But it's the craft, the story, the characters, and how they interact. The characters really, I'm in love with the characters themselves, all of them, and it's just a new story that I'm happy about and harping about. So this is about 3. This last 2 can be any interchangeable, honestly, and it's more the whole story for one of them than really this book that I'm about to show. And it's kind of the emotion that I've had with it, you know, how I felt about this book while I was reading it, really that contributes it to being 1 and 2 here, as opposed to, you know, any aspect of the story. So it's not really the writing is the greatest or the story is the greatest. It's just while I was reading it, you know, the relationship that we had, me and these books. That's really what's bringing it here. So um, I'm gonna say, you know what, in the two spot, I'm gonna say Moby Dick here. Moby Dick, Call Me Ishmael. It took me about 2 months to read this. I'm not even gonna lie, like 60 days, and that's going back and rereading it a couple of times just to finish this story. And I feel happy that I accomplished this. But now I'm happy that I did that. That I struggled. There was a time when I actually stopped and took a 30, a hiatus in the middle. And I don't know. It's something that you have to experience for yourself. That I think if you're an English speaking individual out there, I think this is one of the stories that you have to you owe it to yourself. If you're a connoisseur of the English language, if you love the English language, you got to give this a try if you haven't already. I think most people read this for their 8th grade reading. It's just this is the writing, really. It's the command of the English language that this man has. That really makes me happy about it. Okay, let's talk about the Farseer trilogy, and I think I love it now. But while I was reading this, a good portion of this, I was mad at Robin Hobb. I was like, "Yo, Robin Hobb, how you gonna do me wrong like this?" You know what I mean? So I was like, at some points I was mad at this book, and at some points I was loving it and happy. At some points I was frustrated with where the story was going or the pacing, or I was frustrated with Fitz himself as a character. And at some points I was just rooting for them. And like a good portion of the last part is just like I was like glued. Okay, I took a moment and I was just admiring the writing and the story and how it came together. And this is like the magnus opus or something. Like it's just everything comes together to conclude this epic finale. But it does it in a way where the second book was it dragged. The series feels like a drag, but I think Robin Hobb did the right thing I wouldn't say I would change anything. That's the thing. But then I still have those frustrations because I'm not used to I'm not used to this type of storytelling, or this type of the writer pretty much takes me along, and I want to be in my familiar. I want to be in my familiar lane, but the writer here challenges us as readers, and it's more the writing, the slow burn, the characters, and Fitz in general. Really, Fitz is pretty much in the full. Really, Fitz the full, and the other cast too. All of them. Characters. It's character driven as opposed to the plot. So the character is really what redeems the story. Some parts I didn't like the villain. How it was later on. Some of his. I didn't like. Verity's, who was the protagonist. I mean, the villain or the antagonist. Not Verity. What was the other? Regal. Yeah, Regal, the antagonist. Kind of later on, how he's finished off. It's really what I didn't really buy into it or like it as much. But otherwise, all in all, I'm looking forward to rereading this. You know what I mean? I'm actually gonna be rereading, Moby Dick again next year, just because. But those ones So, what are some of your favorite stories? It doesn't have to be the best story in the world. Just something that you have like a memory, an experience with it. Because of a certain feeling. Comment down below. And this is really the case for these stories. Is more my emotional attachment as opposed to, I don't really think you can, because they're all subjective. You can say something is the greatest. Some things are great, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's all kind of like your experience. All of us our experience as to what's good and how can we say what's good and what's not. It's kind of subjective at the end of the day. But that's pretty much what I have for what I've read, and I look forward to more reading. And I hope all of you guys, stay out there, stay safe. But yeah, Happy New Year. But I'm a little bit late, but yeah, that's that. Please comment down below. Subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get it to 1,000, but that's that. Peace.